The night before it was supposed to hit. Okay. Be quite honest with you, I was going to ride it out.
Hurricane Helene, a Category 4 storm, is about to make landfall, and as it does, it is creating a storm surge.
So we could see that landfall of a major hurricane along the Florida Big Bend region. That would be tomorrow.
Worst case scenario numbers.
Storm surge later on could be catastrophic for a lot of areas.
You know, we continue to monitor storm surge predictions, lining up with tides and things like that. And so my house was prepped. My wife and kids had left and everything. And my folks were still inland. And it got about 5 o'clock and they were talking about a hard closure to the bridge. So I got a call from my mom and dad and they said, well, why don't you come over, we'll have some dinner and then we can go back to it. Well, they talked me into staying. And it's a good thing they did because conditions deteriorated quickly. And even several miles inland, my mom and dad's house took on water. So much that we watched water levels coming up the street, coming up the drive, and started watching the water go up further. Well, I told my mom, I said, get your bag, we're gonna have to go. And we had to evacuate that home, that far inland. And my dad was in front with a flashlight trying to find a sidewalk in the water in the dark. My mom was in the middle holding her stuff above her head. And then I was behind her, and we made our way out to higher ground where we met up with everybody else in that neighborhood. And at that point, I knew things were going to be bad. The sounds, the water rushing, and you would hear car alarm after car alarm after car alarm, and we knew water levels were getting higher and higher. And that's where we spent the rest of the night, up there and then sleeping in our vehicles. We thought about getting a hotel, no rooms obviously, nowhere to go, everything was shut down. And so at that point, it was real. If you've never experienced being away from your home and then the next day not knowing what you're going to see, it's really weird and it's really emotional. And I've done it several times, but never to this magnitude. And it's always that you're driving, you're running over shells, they're popping, they're cracking, there's sand everywhere, there's power lines down, and you start to see the devastation. It was horrific. And so I made it into my neighborhood on the north end of Clearwater Beach. And never been through one, but what I would describe as a war zone. I had noticed there was probably about 3 foot of water left that was still sitting there in the streets. And you kind of see that, and it goes up to your front door. And then you're quickly trying to gauge, all right, well, how high was that? Did it get in? I had the floodgates and all that. And so you get out, you kind of wade through that, and then that's when I noticed my water lines well over my floodgates. And I looked through my windows, and it almost looked like everything had been thrown up in the air and landed in the center of the room. And as soon as I take my floodgates down, I open up the door, and then there's the water just rushing out. And it had held everything in there. I really didn't know at that point what to do. I just wanted to see how bad it was, so I kind of took videos and started thinking about insurance and all that, and going from room to room. You don't really have many photos anymore, but there were a lot of photos that were kept, wedding albums, wedding photos, all my kids' first toys, their clothes, their rooms, everything they had was gone. It's a lot to process, and it's something you still continue to try to process. Even though it was that bad, we're extremely lucky that we still had a structure that we could invest in and live in again. To look around and see it everywhere kind of selfishly brought you a little bit of comfort that you weren't isolated, that this was a community-involved thing, but it really brought out the best in people. All your selfishness was put aside, and everybody was doing everything they could to help each other. I've never experienced anything like that. For this group and those individuals to reach out to someone they don't even know. I mean, I've never had assistance like that. So I've never really known what it would feel like or what it feels like now. I can't ever stress or put into words what that did to give my family security at that time. Having no home, having 2 kids, 5-year-old twins, my wife, you know, life had to go on, and that gave us so much hope. One of the first things that we said to each other was, we will find a way to pay that back, to contribute to any fundraising that this group does in the future, because it really, it inspired us on whatever level we can or could to be able to support that in the future for others. I want to be a part of that because I was on the other end, and I want to make sure that I'm there for somebody that's going to go through that and let them know that it will get better. It may take a bit. Even if you may not really believe that a positive attitude will get you through these things, it really does. I tried to stay positive through this whole thing, and by receiving that assistance, that was one of them that really, you know, motivated me to do that. And I feel like people needed positivity, and just like I needed it from my neighbors, and the outreach that we've received, and folks just coming together and wanting to help by the assistance we received from you guys. That's how we got through it. Things happen for a reason, and maybe this happened for my family and myself to see the really good side of humanity and understand that life is precious and things can be replaced. But we came out alive and unhurt, and we're safe, and maybe that's why that happened to my family and I. You know, I'll say this and kind of make light of it first. I never considered myself really a big Lightning fan. I enjoy watching the sport and everything like that, but from here on out, my family and I, without a doubt, are top Lightning fans.